Seeing no one, we close the public input and move to appointments. We have no appointments this evening. We'll move right to new business. Alton Waterworks, decommissioning of 2011 Ford F-350 and crane.
It's up to you if you're here. I can speak to it, or you're welcome to come on up.
Come
You're
on
here anyways.
Come on up, may as well. Come on up.
Oh, do you want me to give you mine?
No, we was
Okay.
already on there anyways.
Okay.
So I'm just coming to you guys tonight. We're looking to decommission the 2011 utility pickup truck. Couple months back, we were going to purchase a vehicle. And this was on that same agenda item. Since that time, we have taken the utility body off of that truck, fully restored it and put it on the 2019 diesel. Putting us back in the running for having a utility truck. So we're just looking to get whatever we can out of the cab and chassis plow and the crane that has been sitting in the garage for 12, 15 years. So
Okay.
see if we can get anything for it. And we don't have a vehicle for the crane and nobody's certified and it's been sitting for a real long time. So you know, this
What
we
about the
were-
plow? The plow itself is
no.
not worth it.
No, it's it needs a lot of work. So what we're looking as a recommendation is for your authorization to put the vehicle in the crane on municipal bid. Well, the vehicle and the plow, I'm sorry, on municipal bid for a minimum of $1,500 bid. And a minimum of $600 bid.
Okay. Any questions? All right. We have a motion to grant them the approval for
I make a motion that we grant the water department the approval to put the 2011 F-350 cab chassis and plow on municipal bid.
do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Crane as
We
well?
want to put the crane on the same.
Oh,
one.
can we
put the crane on the same?
Yeah, you can.
Yeah.
And the crane.
In the crane. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Courtney.
Thanks, Courtney.
Milfoil Committee, 2024-2026 milfoil bid recommendation. Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Dave Gould from the Milfoil Committee.
I am so.
So this expires every 3 years on the dash. As you know, we do two types of treatment for milfoil dash work, which is the scuba divers pulling it out and then also herbicide. And our dash bid is up this year and we got bids from 3 different contractors and we're recommending the one that we're currently with right now. There's one that was a little bit cheaper that they just started last year and it's kind of a 1-person, 2-person operation. And until they get more under their belt, we're not comfortable with going that direction. We've been very pleased with the company that the last 3 years has done our work.
Okay. Now, most of the time worked by this company, has that been like 20 days? Is that what we normally been doing, or has it been the 30 days?
It varies. Last year we did 7 days. The year before it was 15. It varies. It can go up to 20 days, but that's at our discretion. And how much money we have at the time and what the state is going to reimburse us at, what percentage they're going to reimburse us at.
Mhm.
So, and it's 0. The state comes back and
Right.
says, we don't see any milfoil, then it would be 0.
I probably should know this from reading the literature, but was there a substantial difference between the low bidder and the bidder that we've had good experience with?
No,
really.
the low bidder was at $14.75 a day plus transport to the waste site, which they didn't specify what that was going to be. And the first year of the one we're recommending is $16.50 a day, and that includes everything.
So there.
They're $50 a year. That's,
Yeah, and the third bidder was at 23.50 a day.
Mhm.
So that was a significant.
That's, yeah.
I think, oh, I'm sorry.
Also, the milfoil committee had asked for a 3-year bid and that was the only company.
the only
that-
one that gave
That
me
would give
3
a
years.
3-year
Yeah.
bid.
That's exactly what I was gonna say.
And then there's a 50% covered by DES.
Yeah.
On all of this.
Yes.
This year there was.
This year, it then changes from year to year,
Mhm.
and
That's what I
anywhere from
thought.
25 to 50%. There's a risk in the future that it could be zero because of their funding is under,
Mhm.
they've got issues with the funding, but it looks like we're gonna be at 50% again this year.
Okay, good. All right,
You're actually gonna see
I'll,
that contract next,
Yeah.
or next on the agenda.
I'll make a motion to accept Aqualogic's contract for the 3-year contract.
Second it.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, and right along next is the New Hampshire DES herbicide diver dash grant.
And you can see that the total grant award is for 45,800. It's kind of up to that number, is where they would go. Because again, theoretically, they can come back and say, we don't see any issues this year and we'd spend zero, and they would obviously not contribute.
Right,
2 years ago, we spent $56,000 gross. This past year was a lot lower at $12,000 gross, but we put stuff off for a year because of the river. We weren't permitted in parts of the river that really need treatment now.
okay.
Do you have those
In the
permits
Marraine
now, or do you expect to have them?
I got with the town assessor and came up with all the properties along the river, and we've turned that over to our contractor for including that in permits now.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Okay, do we have a motion? For the diver dash grant?
Make a motion to accept it. Oh,
In
Is it-
in that motion, could you include the language that I can sign on behalf?
Yeah.
So I can execute it.
I'll make a motion to accept the Diver Dash grant with the town administrator being able to sign.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Right.
Aye. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks. 2023 town report cover.
Mr. Chairman, and you'll see in the
Mhm.
book, there's a few examples of photographs and cover fonts, if the board wants to take a look and see if they can come to a consensus as to what they like best to move forward with.
I think the fourth one looks pretty good.
Yeah, I like, that's the last one, right?
The last one,
I like that one.
the last one sums it up pretty good.
We only have
Yeah.
3. Is there a fourth one?
Yeah, the fourth one is showing the bridge.
Yeah, no.
Oh, yeah, that was number 1. Okay, I thought that was.
You
the
can
lead.
see the McGrath General Store. McGrath General Store. Oh, I know. Looks pretty nice back then.
Yeah, yeah.
Bridge is in good shape.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Wait till the new bridge goes.
But that, to me, that's the one that looks the best out of all, in my opinion.
I like the one that looks like a view from Mount Major. But I'd be happy with
Yep.
any of them.
Yeah, I see. That's the third one.
Yes, it's the third one, yes.
Yeah, that's nice too.
It is. Anybody else on the general consensus? Which one is?
I'm okay with the third or fourth one. I do kind of like the fourth one.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah. Okay, is that the general consensus then is number 4?
Should like the third one too.
But
Yeah, I like. I think third one.
Yeah, no, I'm okay with either. If I pick out the wrong one, I'll hear about it from my wife.
Okay, so can I say that the third and fourth are the two top picks? But we have more people that like the fourth one,
Yeah.
so we can say consensus.
Majority consensus.
Majority consensus is
Number
number
four.
4.
Thank you.
Okay, special event application, that thing.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I brought this event permit to you because it's a new event.
Mhm.
And most of the time I sign off on reoccurring events, but also this event also has a request to waive the rental fee. You'll see aside from the event application that is completed, I also asked for our Parks and Rec Director Kelly to respond with an email with her thoughts regards to the material that you have.
Mhm.
And after the application, you can see that, Kelly outlines that, that her and her department are in support of the event. It also is the same day as a planned event later in the day, for a band at the bandstand. Seems to work in line with the event transitioning into the concert, providing more of a day's worth of events or entertainment, so it's not just a 1 or 2 hour concert. There wasn't anything negative that was presented in the recommendations of the Parks and Rec Director. They're going to take part in it and promote their programs as well
Mhm.
with the town. The event, I think you see that in the narrative, that, it's a community benefiting, mental health and support, mental well-being, for community members. It's not a profit making or for commercial event. So does anybody have any further questions other than going through
Just
word for word?
Well,
the whole
it's just gonna
application,
be,
but-
there's gonna be mostly held in the park and on the porch.
Yes.
Porches, right? Not necessarily inside.
Right, right. There are gonna be multiple performers and like I said, acoustic, multiple performers, low noise levels, during the day. Not, at nuisance hours or anything along those lines. The crowd is expected to be sort of a flowing, incoming and outgoing. Not a large crowd all at the same time throughout the day.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
That's
about it. And I
It's
mean,
also
it's all centered around,
Yeah.
yeah, so, yeah, it's all centered around, mental health, well-being,
Yep.
Yoga,
Okay.
music, things like that.
Very good. All right, do we have a motion to approve the special event, that thing, with waiving the rental fee?
I'll make a motion that we approve the special event application for that thing and waive the fee.
I'll second with a question.
Go ahead.
Are we setting any kind of a precedent with the fee waiver? Hopefully not.
She's already involved in.
Yeah.
Parks and
Right.
Rec stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Involved with the town
Yeah.
and with the Parks and Rec.
Yeah, typically, when the waivers that come to the board, it's a case by case situation based on the circumstances. A lot of times it's nonprofits, not for profit events, things of that, especially if the town is partaking in the event as well. So.
Okay, great. And I'll stick with my second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Heike room renovation.
Mr. Chairman, this is something that I added to the agenda to discuss with the board. As you know, as we've been going through the renovations in the town hall, we're down to the first floor now. One of the concerns, obviously a big concern for a long time, is the number of filing cabinets in the Heike room. And the load it's putting on that floor, not to mention, it just is encroaching in on the ability to effectively use that conference room. In order to continue with our plan, moving through the first floor and the first floor's offices, I have to have a place to be able to transition the office out so they can provide services to the public. The Heike room provides that location. I've been working with the ladies downstairs in planning and in building to come up with an idea. So the thought is, and the idea is that, now mind you, the floor in the Heike room is part of the flooring bid that was approved throughout the whole entire town hall. So this portion would be, we came up with the idea looking at the historical photographs that we found in some of the books where it used to be the library, where it jets out in the wainscoting, the recessed coffered wainscoting stops. There used to be bookshelves there where the filing cabinets are. So the same company's been working throughout the building, doing the trim, doing the woodwork, doing the painting. They also built the shelving system for the map room downstairs. They have offered to build floor to ceiling bookcases, bookshelves, modular bookshelves, where we can utilize a lateral filing system similar to like medical offices with tabs coming out for building map and lot numbers. It'll come down from the top, so the top shelf's not all the way up at the ceiling, and risen up on the bottom so that they can put a decorative face and crown on it that mimics the coffered wainscoting in that room to tie all the trim in together with the bookcases. And obviously stain it to match all the woodwork and finish off the woodwork. And then we would, between doing the floor to the ceiling bookcases, being able to put the filing systems in and get the filing cabinets out of there. Combined with the refinishing of the hardwood floors that were already approved on the other one, then we'd be able to, that room would be all set.
No,
And that also includes painting the walls and patching the holes in the ceiling and all that. Because we have quite a few holes in the ceiling in that room because.
And that was included with that price?
For the flooring, the flooring included the floor. The floor is not part of it. The floor to ceiling bookcases and all the rest of the trim and the woodwork is estimated at 15,000.
15,000.
That's including all the material. That's material and labor,
to do all the trim, all the painting, all the everything.
everything.
Okay.
And Ryan, how did they do the actual pricing? Are they just on the materials and labor by the hour basis, or is it a firm quote?
Well, the pricing right now is the materials firm based on what they need for material. They're basing out the time, but the trim and the sanding and the painting has been hourly. It's worked out better for us hourly. Just because we haven't encountered any real big delays on that end. Now, some of the other bigger projects that we've taken on, we've encountered a little more, especially with the wiring. The wiring's been difficult. Yeah, because there's multi-generations of wiring throughout this building. And we stripped quite a few of it back. A lot of the cloth wiring, different generations of wiring, of types. Of wiring.
Generally, when the electrical contractor gets in there, they see anything that looks old and it has the cloth casings on it. They want to replace that while they're there.
Yeah.
In most cases, and rightfully so.
Yeah, I mean, by the time it took us to render some of the stuff safe through the junction boxes, it was better just to strip it all back. And, it was easier once we got walls down and everything gutted, to be able to do that. Not to say that people didn't try to do it in the past, but unfortunately you could only get to a certain point and then they cut the wires off, but the wire's still live in the wall. So we've rendered all of that safe and stripped it out.
And this would come from part of the existing appropriation for town hall upgrades?
Yes. Yep.
And at this time, I'm sure has been difficult to get anyone else to come in and even bid on it. Of course.
Yeah, right from the beginning, there was a lot of skepticism about what we were going to end up with. Into the building, and it was very hard for somebody, because, I mean, not to fault any contractors either, at the same time, it's kind of hard to put together actual bid specs.
Mhm.
Because you don't know, everything was just sort of
It's remodeling,
contingent
it's
based
different.
on.
So not new construction.
Mhm.
Time frame, Ryan?
Well, if the board's in favor of it, then we'll start immediately. We're getting to that point where we're moving downstairs now. So, I mean, just because we're talking about the remodeling and stuff, I was gonna bring it up in my TA report, but most of you saw that the fire escape was completed and put on, so
Looks good.
that
I
came
was
out.
looking at it today.
That
Nice
came out
job.
really good. That was one of
Came out
the,
nice.
that was one of the big items that we were waiting for to be finished with the fabrication, so that we could move on, because as you know, we've already have approved the elevator and the elevator company, the Lula elevator, just 3-person, 1,450 pound capacity. So now we're gonna be able to, we couldn't move any further with that project until that went in for fire safety code reasons, so.
Getting pretty close to the building. Will be in good shape for another 50 years.
Yeah. Yeah, we're hoping to be done here pretty soon.
Okay, do we have a motion, to approve the Heike room renovation,
The total cost was 15,000.
15,000.
15,000, yeah.
Make a motion that we approve the $15,000 renovation for the Heike room.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Deliberative. Mr. Shea,
Oh, that's new business.
that's you.
No, I just, I was in the impression in past deliberative sessions that there was a post-deliberative board meeting, and perhaps there wasn't. I wasn't on the board. We did not have one this time. I learned a lot from that deliberative session. And I came away from it with a feeling that as we go forward with the next one, we probably need to do more in terms of background information with our justifications. Because while they sound good to me when I read them, I realize afterwards that's because I'm somewhat familiar with them, but to the average voter, maybe they don't sound so reasonable, or if they do, they're not very clear. So I spent some time today when I thought it was going to snow, but it didn't, going through and watching the deliberative session video on YouTube and comparing it with what we had in writing. And I came away with a conclusion that, or at least my opinion, that I'd like to work things so that we weren't down to that last minute, we got to have this today because it has to be filed tomorrow, or RSA, this, that, or the other thing, or the attorney says at the last minute, you can't do this, you got to do that. And then you don't really get a look at what the final product is. So I'm hoping that at least next year, we can try to schedule things so we have more time to reflect on what we're looking at and consider it in more detail. Because frankly, I didn't come away from that session feeling I personally did a very good job. So I don't know how the rest of the board feels, but going forward and even with the current session, perhaps some discussion at some point at some future meeting about specifics and what we said and what we did and maybe what we should have done different would be worthwhile. But I've been to several deliberative sessions since I moved to town. It was the first one that I was up on the stage, but most of them were pretty cut and dried, almost to the point where I was disappointed because nobody seemed to have much of anything to say about everything and everything just got passed. But this one was sharply different. And I think we need to consider what we need to improve things so that the next one goes more smoothly.
Agreed. Preparation is key. Most definitely.
So I don't have any motions to make or anything along that line, but I think as we get into the coming year, we need to make a concerted effort to get ourselves enough time to make sure that everything gets a second look before we present it to the public.
It's funny you mentioned that, and I had to watch that video quite a few times myself. I don't know about the rest of you, but I have children. My children were not only in the stands, but they also watched the rest of the video. They watched the names that these townspeople called us and what they said to us up there. Inexcusable. We are here to try to do a service. We're doing the best we can. Are we perfect? No. But I'm not going to sit up there and be talked to like that. I'm a person too. Trying to raise my kids to have respect for other people and, raise them to be good men, and people that got up there and were talking to us weren't.
There was,
won't tolerate it.
there wasn't much respect.
You have to watch the video.
Yeah,
I
get yourself,
encourage you to watch
Just-
the video.
Just in fact, when people come up and the first thing they say, nothing personal, but everything they said was personal. That hurts. The deliberative session, last week. Anything else, Richard?
no, sir, that's it, unless somebody else has some other comments or thoughts.
I just, if you don't mind,
No, go
Mr.
ahead.
Chairman,
Go ahead.
in response to your first part, Dick, as far as, just so you know, the timing, it does,
It's brutal.
it's brutal. The timing is a very short window of that calendar, and we have to deal with, it would be one thing if we were on our own time, meaning our board and setting it, but between the scheduling of the budget committee and the budget committee getting through their hearings and their public hearing, warrant articles in particularly have to go through legal review, but then DRA. And we're at the mercy of DRA. And unfortunately, you are right. There was a few of those warrant articles where they changed the article on us 3 times. Unfortunately, and I'm saying this more so that the public can hear the process a little bit more, that it's in particularly the complex warrant articles, especially like the ladder truck article that we were dealing with, got changed 3 times, actually 4, because it got changed once by legal and then 3 times by DRA, the Department of Revenue. They came back and they're looking at the legalities through municipal financing rules and things of that nature. But that one for the ladder truck with the different amounts and the down payment was so complex as to what they wanted for language in there that it actually went to our DRA rep, then to her supervisor, and then to a third committee meeting right before deliberative, to actually get that language to where they wanted it and they would accept it. But most certainly take all of the feedback and the comments, and every time we go through one of these processes, constantly learning different ways to approach it,
Oh, yeah.
different ways to go about it, to be more prepared, to be more transparent. And everything's a little different each meeting. Last year
Correct.
we trimmed down the information, and all those books you had up there went from a 2-inch binder to a 1-inch binder. Because we had a bunch of information that was just clouding the issues, and it didn't provide any real information. But we will, obviously look at what's transpired this time and the observations from the board and try to make it better and make it move a little smoother next year.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, old business, DPW 2024 paving project bid extension. Welcome again, Scott.
Good evening.
What's happening, Scott?
So, brought you a couple items tonight. Just trying to get in preparatory understanding that we still don't have a budget yet, but still understanding that like to have things all ready. So that when we do have a budget, we can go ahead and move forward. Considerable amount of pavement preservation once again will occur out of the road reconstruction funding that is on the town warrant. So we had a good year last year, actually outstanding year in my opinion, with our current contractor. And he actually came through and assisted us quite heavily in regards to the damages that we had in town. We couldn't have made the repairs, especially the pavement repairs, without their assistance in doing that. So if there's been any issue or deficiencies that have occurred, they've been quick to respond and take care of those deficiencies that way. So I'd like to make a request to extend the 2023 contract. As you can see that they've agreed to hold pricing, understanding that as the asphalt escalator or liquid asphalt pricing changes, whether it goes up or down, that they reflect that based upon their bid price.
Any other questions?
Was GMI the low bidder at the last year when?
When it all came out, it was within.
Wasn't,
I remember it wasn't much
Buck,
difference.
you
it
know, I
wasn't
mean,
much difference.
The difficulty that you end up having is when these companies bid, you give them a slate of proposed roads that you're gonna do or proposed tonnages and or treatments. And then they put together a price. And we basically, when you look at it by the per ton price, or you look at it on an annual lump sum price, it was within, dollars, ultimately. And once again, when you have some experience working with a contractor and you have that ability, the check and balances are in place. That way, it seemed to work well, for us. Versus venturing into a new contractor and, starting over at ground zero. Not to say that the other contractor was another reputable, company. The only disadvantage that I had expressed last time was that GMI Asphalt makes their own asphalt. They have their own plant. And if there's an issue with the asphalt, then they take care of it as one unit versus the other contractors buy their asphalt from other manufacturers such as Brock's or Pike.
And again, this would be an extension for 1 year.
Correct. Yeah, that in the bid documents that we have, it only allows for that on an annual, on a 1 year extension. And that had been, the expression of the board was, when we put this out to bid, since it had not been out to bid for a number of years, was that they did not wish to have a multi-year bid when I put together the proposal. And just that the bid does have a clause in there that says that it can be extended by 1 year upon your authorization.
You happy with the chip seal that they did, that rubber chip seal?
They do not do the.
Okay,
that's not them.
That's the next one.
That's coming up next.
Yep.
Yeah, and you were totally happy with working with GMI. You worked well together and.
Yeah, they were very responsive to us, timeline and scheduling. It always gets tough towards the end of the year. They were good to get in earlier
Mhm.
in the year and were able to get stuff done. Of course, then we had the storm activities and then they picked right up and, as they could fit it, they were doing storm repairs as well. That way, that was a juggling match to a certain extent, with some of it combined with our asphalt rubber chip seal that we were trying to get taken care of as well.
Right.
I felt it was critically important that even though we had the storm stuff going on, that we needed to stay, the course with doing our pavement preservation. Because, you'll see in my annual report, you don't gain as much ground as you'd like to think that when you spend that kind of money, that you're making great strides, that you're taking your pavement system that was at a C- and all of a sudden making it an A+, just because you throw a million or $1.5 million at it. It doesn't work that way because you have all the other pavement that's continuing to deteriorate. And you are playing catch up with your paving. Because we've gone into a different mode here as far as our maintenance mode and preservation mode. It's going to take some time in order for that to come full circle, in order for us to get around. We're getting some miles done now, so we're able to do that. The big factor is now educating the community as to what we're doing and why we're doing it. Having them understand what asphalt rubber chip seal does and how we can do more miles because of that.
Absolutely.
Having them understand a little bit about it. Because they're not used to it. It hasn't been done here for over 20 years. I mean, and it was conventional chip seal before. We can talk about that. Excellent.
And again, this will be contingent upon the budget approval
Correct.
for this, so that'll be
Yep.
contingent on it. Okay, any other questions? Okay, we have a motion to approve the 2024 paving project bid extension.
Make a motion that we approve the 2024 paving extension based on the W Director's recommendation.
Second,
Second, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, while you're there, DPW waiver request property services.
So each year I've had, well, last 2 years, since now this will be the second year that we were actually able to do asphalt rubber chip seal. So this is a somewhat of a proprietary treatment. In other words, there's no companies that really venture this far north in order to do this treatment. There are some in the southern tier that basically they have their customers down there, and this type of work that's done is more of a specialty type item, and they take on X amount of yards of it that they can actually do and perform, because the window of ability to do this is a tight window. It's basically from, early summer or very late spring, depending on how the weather and temperatures go, until, basically right around Labor Day is where they have to stop doing any of that, because they need to have the temperatures up high enough so that it can stay consistent to be able to do it. So I make the request under the purchasing policy to waive that, putting it out to multi people, because there really is only one company that comes this far north in order to be able to do this. So, and I am recommending that we continue to stay the course with the asphalt rubber chip seal. Once again, it's an education of the public, and so that they understand, and we will continue to do and put more information out. I have access to videos that we can put out on our Facebook page. I had put those out before. Glad to do I spend a lot of time as people call up and, come in and ask about it. I had a gentleman the other day that was in, I wasn't there, and I will follow up with him from down on Swan Lake Trail. Right down there off of 28. It's a small subdivision road that we did down there. He was concerned because he thought it was regular pavement. He thought it was unraveling. Because the stone, when you plow it, if it hasn't knit in, it comes off. And so he was concerned about that. So any of the chip seal, the first year, it will always have that, situation.
I had a few concerned people that asked me about that when it was first done.
And
That the motorcycles, if it was loose granule on top until that wore in and.
right. Yeah, I mean, it was swept a number of times. We did sweep it post, which it's swept completely, by the company right after, and then the company did come back. We had a couple areas that where there was a lot of movement of people turning and that kind of stuff. And they came back in and swept again. Things will have to be swept in the spring that way, in doing that. Once again, our lakefront property owners who pay a lot in taxes, which I understand, they would like to have smooth pavement, and smooth pavement comes with a price tag, and it's very expensive. People don't understand that when you pave a roadway and it has driveways that drop off to the lake or go up hillsides, which, you take a look at Trash Side Road, for an example, which has Cape Cod berm. The majority of that road has Cape Cod berm in many areas. The only way you can deal with that is you're gonna chase the pavement back into driveways in order to get the right grades, in order to have that happen. Or you're gonna end up having to mill it and then going ahead to pave into it. Quite an expense. And what asphalt rubber chip seal does, just so the board's familiar with it, because I know you get confronted with it, is that it basically takes and puts a rubber membrane on the paved surface. So we crack seal it first to get the cracks, and then put the asphalt rubber chip seal on it. The 3/8 stone that gets rolled into it allows for an abrasive, wearing course, if you want to call it that, where the tires end up rolling. And it puts a rubber membrane on that. So as we get freeze and thaw, it helps keep that road sealed up as long, we hope for, anywheres from 5 to 7 years, depending on how aggressive the freeze and thaw is. The idea is that hopefully you're able to, when you're paving, be able to go back to that road and then be able to put a hot mix overlay over that. That sandwiches that and puts a membrane in between the two. And still, as things freeze and thaw, it allows to add that strength and the ability to keep the water out of the road. Once the water infiltrates any crack in the road, that's what does all your destruction to your pavement. So where we've seen D-lams happen and other things is because the water gets into that. So we'll also have to probably look at in the future in the budget is to be adding, asphalt nowadays doesn't have the same strength that it had years ago. And as we see more and more cracking happening, is that we may have to add more monies to our crack sealing done. But we're able to do quite a distance in mileage, basically twice the mileage, in doing pavement preservation.
It's
of our
important,
roads.
so-
We'll be doing, with this here, a little over 6 miles, almost 6.5 miles of roadway that will get this pavement preservation.
Which are 7 roads is what you have on here that you're intending to
We've
do.
listed these down. We've gone and reviewed them with the company, and
Mhm.
these will be the roads that we have right now that we have selected, unless something changes in the winter, that causes some other distress that either something might come off the list or be added, or shifted around, but this is what has been estimated on as far as that goes.
Alton Mountain Road.
Yeah, we'll finish that from High
The
Point.
High Point end, Sedleria Road.
Yep.
Dudley Road,
Finish that.
finish that. Hidden Springs, Gilman Corner Road, Woodlands, and Timber Ridge Road.
So those are the ones that right now we catch them, they'll be in good shape and hope to get that license plan out of them.
So, Scott, if we were to decline to do this because it's a proprietary process and there's only one possible bidder, your alternative would be what?
You'd probably be faced with looking at, you'd probably be looking at either doing hot mix asphalt on all your roads, so you wouldn't get as many miles done. And I am always nervous about doing, what they call a micro, or a small overlay, which is thin. And because once again, it doesn't have the strength and it doesn't have the elasticity to it. So if there is a crack there, it will come up through in relatively short time. So trying to get the best value for the town. I understand that some people might have to take the push broom out, clean a few pebbles off the end of their driveway or in regards to that. But I think that ultimately in the long term, they'll be better in their pocketbook on their tax bill.
Yeah, I'm well in favor of this. This is gonna save,
Oh, yeah.
explained it and I know about it and it's gonna last a lot more years on the roads that he's talking about. We just did those several years ago.
Right.
So it's a good time to do it before they start cracking and getting water. Once water, like he said, once water gets into the roads, that's what
Destroys it.
that's what breaks it all up. So this is.
Okay. Any further questions? Any other questions? I'll make a motion to waive the purchase policy for the public bidding for the asphalt rubber chip seal treatment. For the roads, for the 7 roads that were listed: Alton Mountain Road, Sedleria Road, Dudley Road, Hidden Springs, Gilman Corner Road, Woodlands Road, and Timber Ridge Road.
Second that.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I don't know if you need to do a second motion at all, just to recognize that the pricing and the ask and the everything here from all states? As part of that, or if it's just to move, that we're allowed to move forward and. You can-
It probably wouldn't hurt just to do a secondary more, because the first one was primarily waiving the
Right.
The bid
The
policy.
public, right, so
Do a
the,
motion to accept the money, yeah.
no, that's what.
do a motion to recommend authorize the proposed contract with Allstate Construction Incorporated of Sutherland, Massachusetts, in the amount of $461,441.10. Also payment to come from the road construction warrant article, contingent upon 2024 warrant article approval. Now, do we have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay. And while you're still there, surplus sale of vehicles and equipment, DPW.
Yeah, I just provided a memo to the board, just giving an update on the surplus equipment which had been sold. The only one item that we didn't sell was the sheep's foot, as I call it, was on the old military roll. Nobody bid on that, so we still have that. I talked with Jack and Warren about it. It's really something that maybe we'll keep it in the back corner up there, and then when it comes time to decommission the roll, you may be able to get, if the roll is still in operation, then you may be able to get a better price if in fact you sell it with both the drum and the sheep's foot at that point in time. So far right now, knock on wood, we've been able to get parts for that military roll. So we'll continue to run it until we get to the point where the town mechanic feels like he's going to be having a tough time to get parts for it. And then we would be looking to buy another used roll for that purpose, because that does a lot of work with our gravel roads. As soon as we, grade them, we're not only putting on the dust control, but we also are rolling all of those gravel roads. So it's a real asset to have that roll. And if we do any large areas of reclaim areas, or if we're doing a box out in certain areas, and certainly like we did with the flooding and all that, we had some good sized road segments that we had to reconstruct and utilize that. So it's a worthy piece of equipment.
Thank you.
And just for the public's
Right.
recognition, since it had been an issue raised at deliberative session relative to the cemetery truck. So that cemetery truck, see that was sold in there. Those funds will go back to the trustee of the trust funds for put back into the perpetual care. And from what I understand, I do not believe that needs a vote of town meeting, because the funds were paid out of that trust. Then the funds go back into that, and that's something that's managed by the trustee of trust funds versus like a regular capital reserve. Like I would love all these dollars from selling these vehicles to go back into our, vehicle capital reserve fund. That would need to be a vote of town meeting in order to put that back into those funds.
Right.
But the cemetery truck funds will go back to to that for that sale. So just for, but he has that.
So that'll be deducted from the $11,100.
Correct.
It would be similar to if the previous water department request to put stuff on municipal bid would go back to the enterprise fund.
The enterprise fund.
Those funds being that way, I know when I was in New Durham, for an example, they actually had a capital reserve fund that was set up for when things were sold, and it was a vote, the whole vote of the article, so they knew what the spirit was. And then we didn't sell it, when I was there, we didn't sell anything that we had to actually have but once again, all it takes is just saying, well, we sold these things this year and want to have that money put back into the reserve fund. So it does, it's a few dollars to help offset versus going back to the general fund. I realize it all offsets taxes one way or the other.
Right.
It's kind of nice when some of it goes back in kind of like when you sell something on your own. I think that's all I have.
Okay, well, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. Okay, Planning Department, Town Consulting Engineering Bid Award.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, you have a memo that was presented by the town planner, excuse me, Jessica Call. And basically it is their RFP process that they put out for the for town engineers. The planning board met on December 19th and they voted to continue working with two town engineers that were hired in 2021 based on their current pricing and bids, which is in the information package that you have.
Mhm.
One of them is Mike Vignale of KV Partners LLC and Dana Huff PE of Ty and Bond. That's actually now changed, just for information, because Dana Huff has retired. But I actually have a meeting scheduled tomorrow with their firm and Dana to meet his replacement moving forward. But Dana, as you know, is a resident of Alton, has always been our representative. The company Ty and Bond is still going to be honoring, obviously, all of their contracts with the town and work with the town, but there will be a different representative as Dana takes his retirement. Okay. But this is the planning board's recommendation to the board. If the board is so inclined to agree with the planning board's recommendation on these two contracts, I would just ask that you would also authorize me to sign on behalf of the town so I can execute these contracts at a later date.
You want to vote on this or a general consensus?
I need a vote on. Okay.
Do we have a motion?
I make a motion that we accept Ty and Bond for our, it's just for 2024, right?
Yes.
Yes.
2024.
2024
It's Ty and Bond and KV Partners.
and KV Park.
KB, yeah. We have a second. Oh,
And
also,
now,
in
I'm
that,
sorry,
also
and
approve.
authorize
Yes.
Ryan to sign the
Yes.
contracts on the town's behalf.
Thank you.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Selectmen reports. Richard?
Nothing going on with hazardous waste through the winter. We'll be getting on it again in May. And for the budget committee, of course, the activity was the deliberative session. And we are looking for anybody who would love the privilege of serving on the budget committee in the coming year, because right now we're short a few candidates and it's a great opportunity.
Nothing new on my end.
Nothing on mine.
Not at this time. Okay, town administrators report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have two items for you. First of all, on the table, you'll see the holiday leave policy for the town. 7.6. Under the highlighted section, there's one portion of that. There has been some clarity issues that we have been discussing with departments. What you can see is that there's a strikeout because the clarity came from the 24 hours. That 24 hours was intended to be 24-hour period for the day of the holiday. It was being interpreted by some people as a 24-hour shift going into the other one. Other change to it is it only listed per diem staff and no part-time staff, so it precluded anybody from part-time staff receiving time and a half on a holiday versus only being offered straight time, which obviously poses a problem because you can't get part-time staff to work the holiday because they're not mandatory personnel. So it's a little bit more of an incentive. And I believe that that was the intention of the policy when it originally had come out. It was just, like I said, there was some clarity. This isn't a new policy that's being added. This is a change in wording to make it more clear. And basically the change in wording would be per diem and part-time town personnel that work on designated town holidays will be paid time and a half for actual hours worked on the day of the holiday. So that was to clarify that.
And you're
It's that type
removing.
Yeah, the strikeout on the back half is where we're removing that additional language because I think that provided some of the clarity errors.
Confusing.
What was ended up happening is that people that started shift in the middle of the holiday were getting the holiday pay, and the off going personnel that were working into the morning hours was not being included into that. And the whole shift was being covered outside the area of the holiday. So this is, like I said, more of a housekeeping matter. And not so much a new policy or anything like
Right.
that.
Thank you.
So I do need a vote for the board to
Okay.
approve the change just because it's a personnel
Okay,
policy.
do you want to read the change, what was taken out? So everybody understands that, or
That's fine. Yeah, we can do it, whatever. It's clear. You want? So the new policy, if you want, I'll read it into the record for you.
Yep.
Before you make a move. So, and again, this is not the entire policy. This is one section out of that. So this entire page is the holiday leave policy. It just outlines different departments, different people, full-time staff versus part-time staff, things of that nature. So this is one small paragraph in the Holiday Leave Act. The new language will read: per diem and part-time town personnel that work on a designated town holidays will be paid time and a half for actual hours worked on the day of the holiday. So what was struck out was the last sentence said the holiday will begin at shift change on the actual holiday, not the observed day, but the actual holiday for a 24-hour period. And I think that's where that confusion was coming in, as to
so that was what was stricken.
that was struck in
Yeah.
that last sentence.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve and accept the per diem and part-term
So moved.
part-time town personnel.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. The second item and final item I have for you, this was brought to me by the consortium group. So we belong to the consortium for the cable TV consortium agreements, or I should say, contract negotiations. We belong, I believe it's like 10 or 11 other towns and cities in the area. So they put out on the web serve for the group that they're currently, for the last year, we've been in contract negotiations with Breeze Line. And there came up an issue of, one of the things with Breeze Line is whether or not they felt the towns and communities should require Breeze Line to open a retail store in the Lakes region. Currently, right now, we have a contract with Comcast, and in the language in their contract requires them to maintain a retail store in the Lakes region. So I will tell you that what they have asked that we, as town managers or town administrators, bring to each one of our governing boards is the question that, does the Board of Selectmen think that, the language on requiring Breeze Line to open a retail store in the Lakes region is either A, critical, or B, desired but not essential, or C, not necessary? I do know at this point, this has only come out right now, the other communities that have voted on it already believe that it is critical, and the rationale behind it, but behind those towns, is that the decision was the concern if such language were omitted in the Breeze Line, with Breeze Line, it would not be subject to they would not be subject to comparable terms and conditions as Comcast. And Comcast could then rely on such an omission out of their contract to have that language removed from their subsequent franchise agreement. So that's the other board's rationale. And I will tell you that for those, I know that you're probably not intimately familiar with the consortium and the rationale, but we actually there's a contracted lawyer group that represents us as a consortium. We all pay like 10% portion of it, but we have legal counsel that represents just the consortium on this contract agreement. And they're bringing this to the administrators and the managers to say, look, we need to know for guidance on how we negotiate this. If, this is if most of the boards feel that this is a critical matter, or they don't really concerned about it. But I guess what has been pointed out is, right now with the current franchise agreement with Comcast, they're trying to keep terms consistent across the board, so that somebody, when they renew a franchise agreement or they do that, they can basically rely on the fact that others are not being required to participate with that, so they can omit that out of their future agreements. They wouldn't be able to take it out of a current one, but they could do it at a future agreement, so.
And is the lake region specifically defined as those 11 towns or some known area?
Yeah, well, the Lakes region would be, it's basically Belknap County.
Belknap County.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Actually, I think, I will say Franklin's involved in it. Isn't Franklin Merrimack? I believe. They're right on the edge of it, so there are a couple
Just
of bordering,
outside.
yeah, there are a couple of bordering, now that I look down at my paper and Franklin's listed on there. There are some bordering communities, but yes, it's roughly designed through Belknap County and most of the communities that border the lake on this side. There isn't any groups involved right now that are on the Carroll County side of things.
So then again, you need a vote from us on whether or not we feel as though it's a critical, not really that important or
Not necessary.
not necessary. Guys, what do you think?
I would be inclined to think it's desirable, but not critical. And I've got all I can do to turn my cell phone on, so.
But I mean. I guess it depends on. I mean. Kind of critical, isn't it? On them to.
Well, yeah, I believe it could be critical, but not totally necessary to have a storefront is what they're saying.
I think what they're getting at more is that there is a local accessible area where people can go to not just get services, but to get help with their services or things of that nature. Yeah.
A place to go
Exactly
to.
what it's for, just a
complain.
place to go complain.
Oh, do we have a motion? Or I can make a motion, that. I think maybe because some of the other towns feel as though that it's critical that.
I think if the other towns want it,
And,
then
and I think maybe
not
we
gonna
should
follow
follow suit and go along with, the decision of it, making it critical that they have a place for people to complain.
Well, I don't know if I put that in the motion. So a retail store.
Retail store.
In the Lakes region.
Service, I mean.
if you have a problem with your service, you got a place to go.
Yeah.
Right, of course.
Nobody's
Yeah.
gonna go there and be like.
It's a brick and mortar place to go in and do your business.
I mean, you can sugarcoat it all you want, but that's what it is.
Yeah. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And that's it.
Okay. All right. Approval of the minutes, January 9th, 2024, public session.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the January 9th, 2024 public session minutes as presented.
Seconds. All in favor?
All right.
Aye. Okay. Bear with me here. Approval of January 9th, 2024, non-public session. I'll make a motion to approve the non-public minutes and to release 1 and 2.
Second.
On favor?
Aye.
Aye. January 18th, 2024, public session.
Make a motion that we accept the January 18th, 2024 public session.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. January 18th, 2024, public session. I can find it. I know it's here. I already looked at it. I make a motion to approve the non-public session of January 18th, and to release again, damn it, it's right here somewhere here.
It's after that.
Bear with me.
There you go.
Again, 1 and 2.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
Okay, consent agenda approval.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to accept the consent agenda as written.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. discretionary action requests for appointments for Joan Blackwood Swap Shop. I mean, we have heard this on many occasions. It's up to you, gentlemen, if you want to hear it again.
Guess we should hear it, right?
We can, but like I said, we have definitely had quite a few different people come in and speak.
Yeah.
On that subject. It's up to you guys. I mean,
It doesn't make up.
I mean, there's people that want it, but if we're gonna do something like that, there's gonna have to be some sort of a safe place to have it. That's the issue that we're into.
mhm.
You can't have it in a Connex box, you can't have it, and it's gotta be somewhere where people can go in that's safe to have it. So I mean, and that costs money.
And we have to have personnel
You
taking
gotta-
care of it. We have to.
There's staff involved,
Mhm.
there's all sorts of things involved. So I mean, if it's something that's gonna have to be put together, so we actually have a plan, not just a shoot from the hip, here you go, we're gonna put a Connex
Right.
box up there and everybody's gonna stack their stuff in it.
Sure.
Yep.
Yep.
I guess we'll listen to it.
I mean, last time we visited this, obviously, it's, you know, the lawsuit is over, or it was settled. It's on record down in the clerk's office, if anybody wants to look at it. The town paid out money, for an injury occurring on the swap shop, in the swap shop. There were some recommendations that came out of that. And of course, the allegations that were made during the suit are on public file down in the clerk's office as well. Talking and you'll see Joan, I have met with Joan. Joan has also met with, I believe, well, I don't know personally, but spoke with the Public Works Director and the Solid Waste Director. She has a plan that's outlined in here where she wants to mimic something that she saw, I believe, at a Hollis, which is just an open table with goods. She spoke to Primex. I spoke to the same person at Primex, not to mention that I spoke to our our representative after we went through the settlement on the suit. And you know, it's not a matter of not wanting the swap shop or being against it or whatnot. And again, like I said, one way or the other, my job is to make sure the board and the public can understand that there are risks being presented. Primex is not stating that we can't have it. The town can make their own decision. They have just cautioned what Selectman Mitchell just pointed out, that it can't be in a Connex box. It can't have homemade shelving in a Connex box walking through. It needs to have proper, you know, it needs to be a proper building or a proper shelter. It's going to be safe for people to go in there. It has to be regularly monitored. You know, that we have to regularly, you know, take out the items that are not being swapped or taken. The other concerns that were made and voiced were that the town does have a level of liability if somebody puts an article out there for, you know, swap or out there that is either subject to recall, has faulty electrical, has cords.
Somebody can get hurt off.
Any
Right,
electrical
because
items, anything like that we could be liable for.
Yeah, because I think in particularly when they were talking about the place in Hollis, it says right in there that they call it still good in parentheses, and that's a problem in itself, just the title or the name of it. I mean, obviously we wouldn't name it that way, but when the town's representing that it's still good items, they assume reliability for anything that would be defective, a level of liability, you know what I mean, and exposure. So, like I said, that those are things that I explained to Joan when she called, and asked what the story was, because it was discussed widely on social media. And I explained to her those sort of areas, and, you know, those are just, because I believe some board members were here during the settlement of that suit and some weren't. So I'm sort of outlining this for the benefit of the whole board. And not to say that, you know, you don't not to hear it or to hear it. I just want you to be aware of, you know, the discussion surrounding that suit, because that's when ultimately when it had stopped, had shut down, and it hasn't opened since then.
Mr. Chairman, I believe that we should take the few minutes necessary to hear one of our citizens who obviously has put a lot of effort into this. And I have to say, and I'll probably get sued for this, I just get worn out from all of the warnings about you're going to get sued no matter what you do. I'm afraid to take a breath for fear that I will end up breaking some law somewhere and getting sued for it. At the very least, I think we should hear the applicant and then we can discuss the issue further.
I definitely agree that we can hear it. I just,
Mhm.
speaking to the other side of that, Richard, it is kind of the world we live in today.
Well, the thing of it is,
And that's our own fault.
You know what I mean? It really is.
it's gonna cost money.
Yep.
It's gonna need a facility, building. It's gonna have to be manned. There's a lot more than just having, tables set up and doing something with the material out there at large. And then things have to be thrown away that doesn't get taken, has to be swapped out, if you will. We can hear it, which we have many times, but I think until we come up with a good solution and what it's gonna cost, we're just gonna hear it again.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's okay to hear it, and I think it's all right to listen to her, but until we come up with a good solution, and actually figures of what this would cost us to have a properly run swap shop, I think we're just beating a dead horse.
Yeah, the figures to make sure we can sustain it, because you're gonna have people that are for it, which I have, to be honest with you, I have no issue either way.
Mhm.
If we have one, we have one. If we don't, I know people enjoy it. I know people go up there and enjoy it. So if we're gonna do it, then have somebody look into it to see how we can do it safely
Safely and cost
cost effective.
effective.
So I don't have a problem with listening to what
Okay,
the,
so do we have a motion to accept then the appointment?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Public input.
Oh, did we miss the consent agenda?
No.
Oh,
We already did it.
We already
It's
did it.
all good.
I must.
You missed it.
Sorry, I zoned out.
You missed the consent agenda.
You missed it.
Warren Cobb. I'm still a little bit interested in the 05 vote not to support the ladder truck. And I guess what kind of confuses me is reviewing the deliberative session video. Mr. Shea opened it up and said, I quote, "The Board of Selectmen were not entirely in favor of supporting the purchase of the new fire truck. However, we unanimously agreed that's in the best interest of the town." Excuse me. So I don't understand what that means, that you were not entirely in favor. Does that mean some of you were and some of you weren't?
Yes, that's exactly what it means.
Okay.
It means, again, there was a motion to put it into the people, back to the people. And not a decision of the board. That's all it meant. And that it was just a decision of the people.
Well, okay, and later on, at timestamp 2/18/51, stated the board was split in their decision. That's why the rationale is saying, trying to explain. Then 2/19, after a spirited discussion about mixed feelings about the board, was let's put it to the people to decide something this large. So again, people had a discussion.
We are not you people. We're a board. All right. We're a board of selectmen. Thanks.
Can the board explain, tell me, when you had the spirited discussion about this spirit? If two of you were for it and three of you were against, why isn't that in the article?
So I made him,
Go ahead.
let me
No,
explain the
I-
conversation with
That's because that's not how it went.
with legal, because it came down to legals.
Go to legal.
Right.
And this is the explanation, because it was legal. legal
When
counsel.
when it was mentioned that the board was split, it was split in enough votes that if they had taken a vote, it would have never seen the warrant article. Because it would have been a vote down and the people would have never saw it on the warrant. So instead, the motion, and I was required to go back to the video by legal's direction. Because the motion that was made by Selectman Mitchell
I was the one-
specifically said, I will make a motion to put it to the people and let them decide. Because if the board had voted right then and there based on their discussion, which was the same night with the interim, a fire chief was here too for the discussion.
Right.
If the board had voted right then and there as far as to support or not support, it would have never made it to the warrant. And I know that there was a lot of talk at Deliberate. I try to explain it as best as I could so that they understood that if the board had taken a vote, and I know there was a lot of people in the audience that said, well, the board should be voting, they should be taking that vote. If they had taken that vote, it would have took the decision away from the people. At the time, this board felt it was
Yeah,
much
that's-
better
that's-
to put it to the people.
That's the
That's
only
what
reason
we
I
agreed
did that is because if it would have went that way, it would have never made it on the ballot. So I said, okay, let's put the vote to the people. Let's make a vote to put it to the
And
people.
if everyone agreed to do that.
But because of the wording in the motion, legal said you cannot write 5-1 recommended because the board didn't actually recommend the purchase of the ladder truck, but they pushed it forward and recommended it onto the warrant.
Okay, so you had this discussion and said. Yep. This, right? You had a discussion that some of you wanted, some of it you didn't. Well, I then looked at your video where you went over these warrant articles on 11/28. And I'm just gonna read what was stated. Andy stated at the end of the presentation by the fire department, chief of the fire department, that, if it's on the warrant article, at least the people, and then Paul. And yeah, that's it. I mean, this is just so that it gets on the warrant article. Let the town decide, let the taxpayer decide. Then the chief talked about the personnel issue. And at 4:13, Brock made the motion to add the air or ladder truck to the warrant. So I don't see during that meeting that you people discussed and you said what you just told me. When did you decide some of you wanted, some not decided? Certainly not on the video. When was it discussed that some of you wanted, some of it didn't?
There was in particularly, the comment came up, and I think it was Andy that brought it up that the evaluation or the consulting group had conversations with the board about whether or not we had personnel to man a ladder truck when it rolls out.
This was presented to you that night. And planning board hearing, it was stated that they were working on it. So that was after that.
Well, I think
Valuation.
the ladder truck had been brought up to us more than just that one night. It had been brought up to
A
us
couple of
both times. A couple different ways.
So if
5 minutes is up.
So if I can go back, I can find somewhere where you discuss this. About the vote and all.
You can definitely look.
Yeah, there was a few.
Well, part of it was the consulting evaluation that's posted online.
Discussed there.
But you didn't have the proposal to do the lease at that time. Correct?
I do not believe so,
Yeah.
but you'll have to look.
I'd have to find out when it was submitted. But that was after CIP.
Thank you.
Okay, no non-pub this evening?
You got
I just want to
anybody
make sure
else?
there wasn't anybody
Anybody
else.
else?
Oh, okay,
No,
shoot,
no.
looked like you
Sorry.
leaning
No,
forward to
no.
get up.
Sorry about that. I usually
That's
do
all right.
ask.
No, I do not have any non-pub.
Okay. Take a motion to adjourn.
So.
All in favor?
I-
Aye.
That was
Thank you, everyone.
wasn't as late as I thought.
No.
Was there anything else? Go in.
So I guess what you heard was incorrect.
Did you want to see it?
Well, no, I just.
Oh, okay.
It wasn't.
Oh, okay.
it wasn't
Yeah, no.
How it was